Councilman John Williams, and Councilman Fred Richardson will be logging on soon. We also have our other council members on there, Councilman Joe Dave, Councilman Bess Rich, President Councilman Member Lavon Manzi, and also Councilwoman Vanna White, Gina Gregory. And we also have our city clerk, our attorney, and we also have the administration also aboard this call also. Again, thank everyone for participating on this afternoon. The CIP has been a great success. I'm not just only speaking on behalf of District 3, but also really throughout the city of Mobile. And I want to open up this meeting starting with the committee members, Councilman John Williams, and just give us the pros and cons of what you have experienced the past several years of the CIP and its ordinance and everything. And then we'll work out stuff to, at that time, hopefully Councilman Richardson be on board, then to our president, and then following the number of districts after that. Councilman Williams.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. My thought is that this has been a bigger success than most cities would ever dream of. We have made the adjustments when we've needed to address citywide buildings and facilities. I think we've tweaked it every time it was needed, and I'm extremely pleased. Could we do more? Yeah, I guess we could, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the biggest success this city's ever seen. So, and we've kept our promise in doing what we said we were going to do with the money. So, as far as I don't have complaints. That's all.
You just had Councilman Williams said that possibly we could do more. Could you give us an example of what you were saying that we could do more of?
All right, that mute gets away from me if you don't hit it when it comes up. What could we? I think we could have probably at the very beginning maximized what we're trying to do now, and that is put together some bigger contracts. And I think that we have been less overwhelmed in those first several years and got behind. But now, with the project managers coming on and Jasmine, being our organizer, I just don't see how we can make it better right now, except for just keep on individually managing, our districts. They need us to help with this massive, undertaking. But I don't have anything specifically except for, close up the loose ends and try to move things into the next year. We don't need to be managing 6 years worth of stuff. We need just simply be managing 6 years worth of stuff in one lens. And I think that's kind of where we're going.
Okay. All right. Councilman Richardson has not joined us as of yet. We're going to go into, are you finished, Councilman Williams?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Lavon Manzi, President.
Good afternoon. I would echo a bunch of what Councilman Williams just said, maybe with a couple of observations. And I wouldn't necessarily call them complaints, as I guess the best way I'd say it is an observation. We've got a good process that has produced a good product across this city. What I would like to see happen, I think between the retirement of Diane Irby and the engagement of Colonel DeLapp and others, there has been a lack of the communication that I think I was accustomed to when she was in office. We had regular updates, regular reports, regular opportunities to kind of build the vision for the upcoming year's program. And this isn't me complaining. It's me making an observation. And I think if we go back to that structure where we have input on the front end, as opposed to having to respond on the back end, then I think it would be, in my opinion, more productive. And I'm not castigating anyone. I know Jasmine that worked with us since the beginning of this process. So it's not about Jasmine, it's not about the Colonel. I just think that it's a process issue that I'm hopeful we can address. And as far as making it better, you know, I have been torn over the idea of coming in and resurfacing streets and or fixing sidewalks and or repairing and upgrading parks when the houses in these neighborhoods are in such terrible shape. And I would like to see, and I've asked our attorney to draft some language to this effect that will be disseminated between now and tomorrow. I would like to see the ability for us to dedicate some resource to helping to rehab our neighborhoods, you know, in conjunction with what we're doing with streets and what we're doing with sidewalks and what we're doing with parks, so that we can have a neighborhood that's lifted up in its totality and holistically, as opposed to just amenities. And so, you know, I don't know where that's going to go. Majority may not agree with that, but it's, I know it's a need as we talk about growing the city, as we talk about infielding in these older neighborhoods, which essentially is all of my district. The only way that that's going to happen, in my estimation, is that we continue to invest in sidewalks and streets and parks, but we also uplift whole communities to the degree that we can. And so those are really my concerns. And I look forward to having a robust discussion about it.
Okay. All right. If anyone would like to comment on that, if not, we're going to Councilman Joe Daves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say, you know, everybody knows that at the outset of this, my preference was at that time that we take all of the needs in the city and prioritize them, and start with the worst ones and work their way down. In the end, I reluctantly agreed to this 7-way division, and I'll be the first to admit I was wrong back then, because the way it's turned out has been very good. It does have the disadvantage of balkanizing the available funds somewhat, but it has some very positive components to it. One of those is that the money is being spent all around the city, and no section of the city can feel left out. Another positive component is that it does away with us squabbling between ourselves over how the money is going to be spent. And the third thing it does is it gives the council member a vested interest in making sure that that money doesn't start bleeding over into the general fund. So I think it's been a very, very successful program. I'm kind of with Councilman Williams. I don't see how it at this point what we can do much that would make a significant change to improve it. I do think it works best when the projects that are selected come from 3 sources: come from the input we get from the people in our districts, from the 311 calls, and from the city engineering staff. I think we end up with better choices. And I also think, now that we're in this for a while, I think this bundling is working better, and what we're all interested in is making sure that every dollar counts. And to the extent that we can bundle some of these projects like sidewalks, repaving, and that kind of thing, and save some money, that helps everybody. So I think that the progress we've made over the last several years in managing it in a efficient manner helps all of us. So I'm very happy with the program virtually the way it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your comments, Councilman Days. Councilwoman Bethridge.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Wasn't sure. I will echo the sentiments of getting a really good vibe from the split up of the money, especially from my past history of looking at crisis management for capital. So that's been excellent that there is an earmarked line for communities, and it's across the board equal on this level of the penny. The other thing is that communication, I think, could be highlighted and better improved. I realize also, and that's basically what Levon was saying about when we had a designated individual who really did, you went right there as a council person to that individual and got as much information as possible. And that's kind of gotten a little bit tangled up. So if that could be administratively done, that would be a real plus for myself as a council person, and hopefully all of us. The other thing I'd be curious, and I don't think anyone here is capable of this, but when we talked about the penny, we talked about it bringing in X number of dollars, and then we allocated the 3 million, which we were very comfortable with, meaning the 21, knowing that that amount would be there, even necessarily in not in a good economy even. But I'm curious because we've never really gotten a track of exactly how much this extra penny brings in. Because when you read the ordinance that set it up, and it has changed slightly over the course of its history, but we allocated some for public safety, and then it was for their rolling stock at the time when we were only leasing instead of owning vehicles, especially for police. And then we had money that was to be spent on all facilities that all our citizens, regardless of where it sat, within the district, like museums and rec centers or whatever. But I would like more accounting financially on exactly what that penny is, so we can track it and also know at the end of the day, those other things within the component of the ordinance are matching up, and at what amount is it going. So that's something that I think would be really good. And if we could get it at the start of the budget year by looking backwards and then projecting it into this year, that would be very, very helpful for all of us, I bet. So again, I know it's not an easy chore to juggle all these different projects, especially when for the longest time we had $1.8 million as capital. So when to go to that is quite stunning to see this much being allocated and rolled out. So I'm very impressed with everybody working towards that goal. But I just think more connecting the dots, and also that our citizens really, for us, tell us what their priorities and where they'd like to see that money that they're actually producing for the system. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rich. I guess I would like to ask our attorney, Ms. Chris, that Ms. Rich had asked about, the extra penny, how much was brought in the past. What years are you concerned about, Councilwoman Rich? I mean, is this past 3 years, 4 years, or what?
I think just even starting with this year, if they could look back and tell us exactly what that extra penny bought in. I mean, we were working off projections. And so I don't think we've ever really line that out to know what the extra penny brings in, because you have, only because we wrote within the ordinance other things the extra penny was to go towards. So it'd be nice to know. And is it meeting that? I mean, we know it's meeting the 21 because we were comfortable with that, saying that it would definitely bring in that amount. But that was going back a number of years. And we, right now the economy is not exactly stellar, but it has been up until this point, and it should go back. So it's really living up to the letter of the law of how much is going where above that 21 million, because it speaks to, like I said, police and fire. And then we said city buildings. And then we talked about a level that was over 25 million that the council would then, if you look at number 3 on that ordinance, it says the council would decide what those other projects would be. And I don't recall that we've ever really put our heads on any of that because we haven't had the breakdown. So
I would think that it might be, if we're going to do that, it'd be best to look at the past fiscal year. This year has some aberrations in it. And so maybe the way to do that is to get those numbers for the fiscal year that ended June 30 of last year, and look at it that way.
yeah, because that CAFRA is in. So yes, that would be exactly what to do.
I don't know if
Correct.
y'all saw the note, but Relia said she could do that. She sent a note to Lisa saying she could do that.
Okay, great. That's
So
that's
we're-
excellent. That will be
Yes.
very helpful to us.
Since
As to-
since the CAFRA's in, she ought to be able to do that fairly easily.
That's
Great.
something that you can probably do for the past 2 years.
Yes, I can pull that information up.
Okay, that.
Yeah, it'll take a few minutes, but I just because we're trying to finalize this real quick, the 2021 budget, but I can get it to you within the next week or so if that's okay.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and I guess Ms. Rich and also our president had one other concerns too, and I guess between Colonel and also Jasmine, I mean, maybe one of y'all two can answer the question: who can a council person just really go straight to about questions and concerns with their projects, and exactly where they at with the project, the certain projects?
Right. So if I understand the question, if you're talking about active projects that have been effectively agreed upon and passed or adopted and that we're going to execute, that gets into kind of then the work we're either going to award and the current status of that project. We're in the process of finally moving fully into an automated system using eBuilder. I know you've heard a lot about that. We've talked about it, but we are going full bore on making project managers, whether engineers, architects, or specific project managers, use that system. That will, when we're doing that, that'll have the ability for the status of those projects to be viewed on our intranet page as well. So that makes it not only viewable to you all, but also makes it viewable to the public to kind of get a very basic level, not down into the too far into the weeds, but a kind of a top level that the public would want to have, and probably, you need. Now, there's going to be things you're going to have much more detailed questions on. And the initial entry point, I would always say for the council would be to Jasmine when it comes to a CIP type question or concern, whether it's programmatic, how much do I stand on how much money I have, or a specific project. She will then likely get the information from either a project manager, engineer, architect on that specific project. But I would like to make it so that there's no question in your mind that you have the ability to dive right into the system to look and see the status of every project in your district. And we're going to be there very quickly so that you can look at every project, click on it. It'll give you a fact sheet on it. You can print it and you can have an updated status. It'll be as updated as the last time the product manager touched it. And they put in there, whether it's a schedule, how much money they've spent, when it's going to be completed, et cetera, who the contractors are, who the contracts are with, all those details. We're going to have that, which we've not had, and that will give some transparency to you all. Now, when it gets to so that kind of gives the products that have been vetted. When it gets to the process of how we get to the products we get, I'm happy to talk about that more in detail. We've got a slide we can actually show on how how we're doing it, but how I recommend we move forward in doing that, so that you understand the cyclical or the annual process in which we go from where the project came from, what Councilman Daves was talking about where projects come from and who generates the projects, to what projects get approved and then go forward, and then put that in a 5-year plan. So happy to talk more about that, Councilman Smalls, if you'd like.
Sure. One other thing. So I think a little bit of the conversation was on, it sounded like timing of updates and frequency of them also. So if there's information that you need more frequently, just let us know. We do try to have these quarterly updates with you guys, and we've been able to get with most of you to, kind of fill you in on how your projects are doing by year, and then also kind of give you a timeline of how we're moving forward, for instance, with the 2021 through 2025 CIP planning. So I think we gave you updates, and it was more on a monthly basis, and then we reverted back to doing a quarterly basis. And I think we started with giving you guys a notebook that we were going to update with you guys. And I don't know if you still have those notebooks around, but we can increase that frequency if that's helpful. Or as Jim said, once we get everything online with eBuilder, we can make sure that you guys have access to that and can get those project update sheets. So is it a frequency thing? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, I think with Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Mr. President.
I think frequency is part of it. I know with me, and I'll admit that I've gotten an email from your office asking for dates, and then so on 1 or 2 occasions we have not been able to connect. But at the end of the day, what troubles me is this concept that we would meet, and when we meet, I have a ready-made 5-year plan that I have had absolutely no input on. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell the members of this council and all 28,000 residents of District 2, that's not gonna fly. No year, whether it's 2020, 2024, 2032, long as I'm there. That's absolutely not gonna fly. Well, we've got these big buckets, 500 for you and 400,000 for you and 200,000 for you. And I have had not one word of input. That's not what my citizens expect. That's not what we created when we created the CIP program. And I don't want us to go down that road, because once you start going down the road, it's harder to revert to the other side. I want to stop it before it gets out of hand.
That makes sense.
The only way it's gonna not get out of hand is communication. Because at the end of the day, those $3 million that's gonna be spent in District 2, LaVon Charles Mans is gonna have some say on it. Now, I'm not saying every project that y'all put on my list is a bad project. As a matter of fact, a lot of them have merit. I'm not knocking one project. But timing may be wrong. The appropriation of funding may be wrong. But moreover, the fact that I had no input is absolutely out of alignment. And so communication is what's going to keep us in sync as we build these programs, in my estimation.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Gregory.
Just to give my 2 cents on where we are and what we've been doing, and I just heard President Manzi's concerns. That has not been my experience. We started doing 5-year plans some time ago, and every time I go in the door, I basically know what to expect because we talked about it. And some of the things that they had on their list, I added to or we took away from, but they always have listened to me and have included things on the list that I wanted. And if you don't want them on there, you take else. Now, the problem could be that during the year, something might happen. A priority might change and you need to move money around before maybe that other project gets going. And we've had issues with that. I wanted to change some things, you know, before we actually got going, or maybe before the budget is approved, after I've had a CIP meeting, and that becomes difficult because everybody kind of digs their feet in and say, no, we've already been through this, we've already made these decisions, and you can't change. Well, the council's view on that is, yes, we can, because the budget's not going to pass if the CIP is not where we want it. But I'm saying that in all the planning that we've been doing these last few years, my experience has been that they have listened to me. I have complained about lights, about drainage, about Langen Park, and all these other things, and they have included those things in the budget with, you know, a suggestion on the amount. And I've been able to go through and switch and move and put some off until the next year or 2 years down the road. So I think in that respect, they are listening, but we have to be prepared. You know, we can't go in and kind of fool around and say, oh, well, I think maybe this, maybe that. And then 2 weeks later call and say, no, I want to change it that and then this, without having the staff get frustrated with us as well. But again, at the end of the day, it is the council's decision. So we all have to, I think, pitch in and make it work. Jasmine hasn't been our point of contact for very long. So it's good that she is on board now to work with us. It would be nice if, as our projects get going, and I know it will take effort and time and people thinking about it, but as our projects get going, if we could be notified that the project is underway, that would help. Because what I find myself doing is constantly calling Kim Harden or calling Shonda or calling Nick or calling somebody to say, hey, when are you going to start? When's it going to be going? Because I like to get pictures, you know, I like to know what's going on and share on my Facebook. So if there's any way to keep us more updated when these things are going on, I think that too would help. But, you know, as far as how it's worked, you know, the time that we've been on the council and Fred and John and Bess, I mean, we never had that kind of money to do anything with. I mean, I spent all of my time saying, no, the city doesn't have any money. So now we've got all this money. And for a while, we've been complaining that we don't have the staff or the project managers or whomever to get the projects out the door. And that's frustrating, you know? So it really does get to a point where somehow there seems like there should be some sort of middle ground to have the staffing to get the projects out the door and get the ones out the door that we really are excited about doing, and, you know, and have enough say-so to, you know, to get it done. I think I'm rambling at this point, but I think you all understand what I'm saying.
Hello, everybody.
Hold on, Councilman Richardson. Just for pen note, Ms. Vanna White, Ms. Gregory, I did not forget.
Let me spin that wheel, CJ.
I did not forget you. Are you finished, Ms. Gregory?
No, I mean, I think that's good. And on Bess's comment, I think we would all like to know, and probably Joel's too, not only how much is coming to our districts, we know that, but also how much is coming out of that penny going to other things, because we see a lot of things coming to us for approval that is CIP, but it is general city CIP. And we're always saying, okay, that says CIP, so which CIP is that coming from? I think we'd all like to know that. And out of our district CIPs, how much is going to a lot of these general city-wide sorts of projects? I think over the past, that's given a lot of us heartburn. I mean, you know, I hate having to put out so much money for timers on Airport Boulevard, you know, but it is what it is. Look at Joe.
He can't hear you.
You didn't put in one.
Hey, I'm just saying, it is what it is, and I'm doing it, you know.
I paid.
You know you
for the
spent our
whole
money,
thing
Joe.
out of District 5 CIP, $800,000. So don't hit me on the timers on Airport Boulevard.
The
Hey,
time-
I'm just saying, Joe,
Get on
you know,
Airport
you would prefer to spend your money some other way, and we all would.
Exactly
But
right.
it's something that has to be done, like Schillinger Road. I'm gonna have to resurface some of Schillinger Road because Pago's not getting it all. Do I want to resurface Schillinger Road? No, I'd rather do something else, but you know, it is what it is.
Okay. All right, you finished, Ms. Gregory?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we also have Councilman Richardson on board. Welcome, our other committee member. of the CIP program, Councilman Richardson. We was going through the each council person and asking for
Okay,
the pros and the cons of their experience with the CIP. So it's your turn.
okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry, I've been having problems with the internet. I have Xfinity and it just yet completely down on me, and I got my MiFi, it didn't want to work. So I kept on and said, I'm on with I've used my personal phone, not my sitting, nothing else would work but my personal phone, but I'm here. I just want to say that I am thoroughly disgusted with the time it's taken to get these projects out. Some of the projects are dating back to 2017. That we have not completed yet, and we constantly see where the city is keep bringing on extra people for this, that, and but they don't bring in engineers who can help us with these projects. What good is $46 million in surplus to us when we can't get the personnel we need to get our projects out? We need to be up to date. We need to get all of these projects out. We are a year out from election. We don't need to go telling the people, we had that, we paid for that, but we don't know when it's going to come to fruition. We need to know, and when it comes to resurfacing, we need a schedule. They need to tell us we're going to start off with what district we're going to start off with. When we leave that district, we're going somewhere. We need a schedule. Not we just hope, Lord, please show us when they're going. No, we're dealing with professionals. These people handle our resurfacing every year, and the idea that they can't predict, they can't tell us when they can get to us is foolishness. If they can't do it, we need to find somebody who can. We need the engineer in the room, the contractor in the room with us, so we can ask the contractor, all right, contractor, if we're gonna vote on this, how long is it going to take you to do all of these, and how give us a schedule of how you're going to do it, how you're going to start. We ought to have more than just out there guessing on when they might come to our districts. And again, when I get to the table, it is a lot of things that the city personnel put up there for me to do, and I'm like Gina. I'm having to wrestle whatever I need to do to take them down, to put things in that the citizens in District 1 are telling me they want. When I finish up with what the citizens say, it doesn't match up with 311 or however they came up with their list. My list is not matching their list. And as far as I'm concerned, my list is the list. And if they have something they can prove to me that I need to leave my list and go to their list, I'll do it. But I'll stay in the room. They're not going to select, they're not going to take my $3 million and then tell me what to do with it. That's the system we were under before we got any money. They did what they wanted to do, but and now that we have money and we're going to have to be the one to approve it, I'm not taking that. I'm just not taking that. They're gonna have to change it over. And when I get ready to vote, if it's not how I said I want it, I'm going to amend it. I'm going to offer an amendment to put back up there what I say the people in District 1 said they wanted to do. I think they used the 311. I'm not concerned about that because the people in District 1 have been let down and disillusioned with 311. They're not calling it. They tell me, I'm not calling 311 no more. I'm not getting anything from 311. So where 311 is working real well, I say use 311, but in the areas where people have called and got no response from them, they are not calling 311 anymore, but they'll call me. I get calls every day from people. And I ask them, have you reported to 311? No, I have called 311. They don't do anything. And that is the response that I get. All right, that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Davis.
I would just like to, I hear everybody talking, everybody's got a little different spin on this. I would just suggest to everybody, this process is going to work a lot better when it's a collaborative process between the individual council person and Mr. Delap's staff. Because ultimately, these projects are going to have to be engineered and bid out and contracted and monitored by Mr. Delap's staff. And so what we want is a collaborative process where we agree on the projects. The entire slate is not dictated by the administration, and the entire slate is not dictated by the council person, because there has to be some collaboration between these projects. Because again, it's going to have to be executed by Colonel Delap's staff, and we want them on board. We want them as partners in this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Days.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, President.
why wouldn't they be on board? Why wouldn't any member of the city staff drawing a city check not be on board with projects that we would bring forward? What would be the encumbrance to being on board, Councilman Days? I think if we've got a slate of projects, and again, I'm not advocating that it be heavy-handed or overly heavy-handed in one direction or the other. I can only speak to my current experience. I heard what Ms. Gregory said, and 90% of it I can agree with. But when it came down to this fiscal year CIP program, I had a whole program cut, carved, and put together for me for expenditure for this upcoming fiscal year. And I have not said one iota concerning the program, which is why when we had our meeting, I was up front with the colonel, I was up front with Jasmine, and I told him I was not satisfied. We might as well cut this meeting short, and I would come back to you once I've had an opportunity to talk with some key people in my district. And I haven't, and I'm wrapping that up so that I can get them that information. Some of what they proposed, I think is great. Let's move forward with it. A bunch of it, I'm not in a position to support at this time. So that's why I made the statement I made relative to the updates, starting at the beginning and not the end, and communication. And it is in a castigation of any one individual. I enjoy the staff that we work with, and sometimes people don't know unless you let them know, which is what I'm doing.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I was under the misapprehension that the president was posing a question to me, but as it turned out, I guess he just wanted to go into a soliloquy. So I won't try to answer the question.
I never gave you the impression that I was asking you a question, Mr. Days. What question would I ask of you? You're not in control of the process.
A lot of anger here. All right, that's for sure.
Colonel Delap or Jasmine.
Mr. Chair, 1 second. Let me just say, it's not anger. It's passion. Because I know the impact that this program has had in my community that have gone outside of downtown Mobile decades without resources. So it's not anger. Please don't categorize me as the angry man. I have passion, and I'm gonna continue to have passion.
Almost sound like Fred, don't it? But Colonel Delap or Jasmine, would y'all like to respond on?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Chairman Smalls. Real quick to Councilman Manzi's or President Manzi's point. Number one, we met with every council member. We established and attempted to establish with his office and himself personally multiple times opportunities to meet. As Councilman Gregory pointed out, we went through the process as we have in the past, and we provided the recommendations of the staff based on multiple input sources. Those are technical assessments, professional staff recommendations, 311 calls, etc. We merge those with the recommendations of the council. But if we don't receive the council's recommendation, and after we met with Councilman Manzi, I actually was the one who said we would cut the meeting short, because the first comment was there was 90% of the things on there that he didn't agree with. We asked specifically for him to provide his list, and more than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think at this point has gone by, and we still haven't received that. Unfortunately, you know, we have to be able to move along with the process as all the other 6 council members did and met with us, and we went through and we talked about what the products were and we made adjustments. That system seems to work. As I said, we have a deliberate process that we've been following and we will continue to refine. I will say that the process has to start with the baseline information, which is the technical assessments that the city and you all have paid for, which are pavement assessments, building assessments, all the assessments that are done, park assessments, facility assessments that have been done for the city. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get those assessments done so that you and the staff have the basis of knowledge by which we should put our money at our worst areas that are most in need. That's merged with, as Councilman Daves put out, what the citizens actually want, which is effectively what you want. Because if you're hearing from your citizens that they want certain things, we need to take that input as well. If there's a park that we don't use and isn't used by the citizens, even though it may have a poor facility, we don't want to put money into that park unless we want to put it into an area that is heavily used. Same way with our streets. We don't want to pave streets that aren't that used. We need to pave the streets that are most used, even if it's in a little bit better quality than another street. That's what the technical professionals will say, because that street will wear out quicker and you'll have a harder time getting after it. Doesn't mean we're never going to get to those other streets. Then again, we take our staff assessment and put that in and their historical knowledge on things that may wear out quicker. So all those are things that go into making the determination on the recommendation. But I cannot agree more with what everyone I think is saying is it is a agreement between what is the staff and the recommendation from the engineering and technical assessments and the needs and demands of the citizens, which are represented by what your tongue is unique. And once it's agreed upon, as to answer Councilman Manzi's question, once it's agreed upon and passed and presented to the council, the city staff is 100% on board. We're going to execute exactly what's agreed upon. The city staff is not going to have any question or try and slow or not do something. And so I think it's important to know that we will never be a roadblock in that matter. We're only going to provide the assessment and advice and come to an agreement. I think when we stick to the process, which is a cyclical process, it's the best. But if we don't have the meetings and people don't come to the meetings or don't, meet with us, and we can't get the input, and that is a big problem. And for 6 of the council members, it was not an issue. I think everyone around on this call today knows exactly what they're getting and what they're doing, and it was based on that mutual input. So I apologize if one of the members didn't get that, but it was not for a lack of trying by the staff, because I've been on all the emails and all the text messages and phone calls, et cetera. So to that point, the last thing is I will say the one thing we haven't talked about is one of the things that I think strategically missing for the city is, again, the basis by which all this should come from is the map for Mobile and a strategic vision on what we want to do with the city. And I think everyone on here, that's one of the very basic things we have to look at before we go forward. Anything is review the map for Mobile and the strategic vision for the city. That should drive a lot of what we do holistically. These projects are split up to 7 districts, which is fine, but there does still need to be an eye on that, because beyond your projects and the $21 million that we're talking about here, which I think is the focus of this call, there's other resources that the city staff wants to put towards and wants to apply for to work on that strategic vision. And one thing we're missing is that view so that we know where to put money, because oftentimes we can get other money and put it towards your district projects and match and bring in additional resources that can really be multipliers for the amount of money you're putting in. And we want to do that with that vision, that strategic vision. So if there's something that needs to get done, other sources, we may go find another source of funds and put it in there to match that and try and accomplish a bigger project in your district. And we really want to do that better, but we have to do that by stepping back a little bit and looking at that, the strategic view of what we want to do in the city as well. Besides, looking down into each district individually, because that is not in the best benefit, I believe, of the entire city. We want to make sure we accomplish those things, but they all have to be towards that bigger goal of the city. So I would encourage in the process that we start out with that, which should start all the way back in January, is that review of strategic, vision, the map for Mobile, and where we want to go from there. By the time we get to August and September, we're down and everything's vetted and approved, and we know which products we're going to do to help work that way. So I just throw that out.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I don't want to get, it just don't sound like a counter comment, but I hear what you're saying. And I think that the staff ought to stay focused on whatever it is that's driving the staff and whatever the mayor says you focus on, and that may be the map for Mobile. But I'm gonna put it a different way. Other than saying it's an election year, I would say that every year is an election year. And we got to remember who it is that we are serving. And if that map for Mobile doesn't match the District 4 residents' desires for the use of their tax dollars, then oh well. There is some extra money, and I'm interested to find out what beyond $21 million is out there. And we freed it up a little bit and said it'd be capital projects. And if those match up with the map for Mobile and the staff wants to do them, I'm willing to vote in the affirmative on those projects. But right now, I got a lot of drainage, and I am absolutely certain that drainage is not in the map for Mobile, not in the degree that I need to work on. So I'm just going to put it out there. Everybody's got a different way that they look at it, but I am not in favor of diverting any of the $3 million that is in District 4 that right now is going toward drains and drainage and parks and other infrastructure. If Mr. Manzi wants to do neighborhood development, that's great stuff. I think that's a good project, but we need to stick to capital. And we need to stick to the stuff that people see, because if people don't see it, and if they don't, if they like McGregor, if you can't see it happening, you're going to have a hard time selling this project in the future. Just my thought.
Can I weigh in real fast too?
Ms. Rich?
Thank you very much. I'm looking at my 5-year, and I don't know how everybody else's maps out, but I'm going to have to get some more technical things in my 5-year. If hearing Mr. Delap and Colonel Delap, what he's saying about strategic, because I don't think there was a lot of strategic out past 1 year. Like, for instance, they have synthetic turf combo soccer fields, but they put in $1.1 million for each year. And we're not gonna spend that kind of money on that in Medal of Honor. And I think I pointed it out at one of my meetings. So if that's something that the administration wants some more technical information, then I'm going to have to look at that. I know we vote on a 5-year, that's a requirement. It's always been a requirement that the council vote on a 5-year capital plan, whether you have the money or not. But we do have the money, we do have the line for it. So I know my office, if we're looking at each one's concerns, is going to have to get that to look a lot better going into the budget cycle for capital. And I kind of dismissed it, but in listening to the conversation, I'm learning a lot more on what the administration, is moving towards. And the map of Mobile, we got to dust that off again, don't we? And make sure that it is in touch with what people want. And administratively and citizen wise, because that's where we dove into it. And so that I want to make sure that the administration, well, mostly Jasmine, because I know that my office will be writing her immediately on that. So I wanted her to get a heads up on that. Thanks.
If I could, Councilman Smalls, I don't want to mislead. I don't want to, maybe I misportrayed the map for Mobile. I'm not viewing that as a administration, although it may have been produced by this administration. It is just a document I mentioned, but I have about 3 or 4 more on my desk that have been done over the last decade plus. The new map for Mobile, the map for Mobile, or it's a new plan for Mobile, and many other documents that have been done, all of which were the basis was constituent input. Multiple meetings were held in every district with lots of constituents where all that input was brought in. So I want to just make sure these are Some of them are visionary projects. Some of them are all of them every drainage project in District 4? No. Some of them are visionary projects, but all I was saying is that I think we all collectively want to keep an eye on those. We know we have to do those things that need to get done in each district. And some of them will not be, some of them could be things that are underground or aren't, considered sexy projects, but need to get done because they got to fix things. This staff is 100% supportive of that. So I don't want to mislead someone that there's everything's going to start shifting towards some visionary projects. That's not the case at all. We just don't want to lose touch of it, and make sure we keep an eye on that. Otherwise, we'll, be focused in individual little things and never get the big things done that we need to accomplish collectively. So I appreciate all the support in that and comments on that as well.
Thank you, Colonel DeLapp. And also, Colonel DeLapp, you was going to explain to us right before Councilman McGregor had started talking about this new program that going to be facing. You said, you asked that you want us to go and dealt with it. If you could give us about 2 or 3 more minutes of that, if possible, just explain to us exactly when it's going to start, et cetera.
I think, are we talking about the software program or are you talking about? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, the city's been paying for eBuilder for about 2 years, and to the point of someone, I can't remember, someone mentioned kind of a lack of communication, and Jasmine talked about, we used to do monthly updates and it went to quarterly. We still do monthly updates in the staff. Jasmine leads. We do quarterly to you all. We're happy to go back to monthly if you would like. I have no issue with that. We do them every month regardless. Programmatic, that's a programmatic view for CIP as a program. The eBuilder software system was vetted and decided upon before I got here, but it is probably one of the best out there for project managers to use to track the projects. It really serves as just a database for project managers to put information. You put the baseline information in, who it is, how much it's going to cost, who's the contractor, schedule, and load your projects into it. And a project manager lives and works in that. That's the tool. They don't store documents related to that project and on their hard drive in their computer. They store it in this web-based system by which anyone can go in and look. When I say anyone with the right, authority or privileges, can go in and look at that project's, the details of the product. So then what we can do is we can have portals that are on the internet or that you have access to that you can go and look at all the data on that. So that information that's in there can feed up onto the internet, and I can point out lots of other cities that have this system well in place, and you can see every district in your project. You can sort it by district, you can sort it by project type, you can sort it by start date, completion date. You can look at any one of those in a map form. So you can look at your district map and it'll have 15 little icons on there and color coded by type of product. These are these are roads, these are drainage, these are environmental, these are buildings. And you can click on it, it'll pull up all the facts on that project. How much it costs, who the contractor is, what's the start date, what's the estimated completion date. And it can be current active projects, or you could say, what are the planned projects? Which ones are in the future in 22, 23, 24. And so those, you can look at that. The advantage is not only do you have view of that and have visibility and the staff, which is putting all the information in, but the constituents can see that as well. And so they can see, to Councilman Richardson's point, they could see when that road might get paved in their neighborhood, what year that might get done, or when that new fire station is going to get built. That transparency, I think, is really important. And so we're working really hard right now to get our project managers to adopt and move into that. It's a transition. I mean, we're gone from, very few projects and easier to track to hundreds of projects that are not even in the system, and to get them comfortable in that tool. And we're integrating that to our internet portal so that it can be, showcased and broadcast out to the public. If you would like, I can send you a link to a couple other cities so you can see an example of what those look like. Some very, very good examples out there that you can see how that system works. And that's, I hope ours will be better. And we're in the process of doing that. And with that, I talked to you last time we gave an update about producing a document that will be, you'll be able to download, and it'll have a summary of all those so that you can see what's the total amount being put to parks, what's the total amount to streets, what's the total amount to drainage. So you can have those summaries as well. And I think that'll be very helpful for not only you all, but and it'll be a summary by your districts as well, but it'll be good to your constituents and citizens.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Days.
if I could ask Colonel DeLapp a question that starts with a statement. You know, Colonel, when Diane Irby was heading this up, she talked about this capability. This was 6-7 years ago, where there were going to be these basically one pagers, and like the ones you're describing, that were going to, so we would be online. We could go look at it. If we had a question about the improvements at Hackmeyer Park, I could go there and I could look it up and say, well, they started on this date. It's supposed to be complete by this date. Phase 2 starts on this date. How much it was, who the contractor was, all that. So we've been waiting 6 years for. I'm not trying to beat you up. I'm just saying we've been waiting 6 or 7 years for this, and we're still waiting for it. And when do you think we're going to get it?
Yeah, so great question, Councilman. And you know, I can't speak to the 6 years before. What I can tell you is, you know, we had a large contract with a contractor that was doing due diligence, but there probably wasn't the sense of urgency that I probably would have had, or there would have been had I been here. I'll be candid. Then there was about a 10-month or 12-month gap after Diane left where a lot of that momentum was lost. And that's probably where the break in communications also started, was that when Diane left, there was almost a year gap before I was brought on board. I'm picking up what was started, but one of the big things we did is terminate, you know, or end the $600,000 contract with that contractor and brought their key person, Jasmine, who was really the main person servicing the city, on board as a city employee. I think that was probably one of the best moves that we made. And not that contractor isn't they're not a great contractor. They do great things, but you know, they're not incentivized to do it really quickly. I am, and so I want to get it done. So we are in the process. We've got the draft of this book made. We've got a draft of the sheet made. We're now just making the linkage between the system, and that's, I think, also already basically done between our e-builder system and the internet portal. The next step is just getting all the data, make sure it's up to date. What I don't want to do is have this thing out there and have a bunch of bad data in there so that people are looking at it and it's got bad data. So part of it is getting our team fully embracing the software. And next month will be the first time I'm starting to review everything just using that software system. To date, they've been briefing me through a different form using effectively PowerPoint slides to brief me on the status of the project. We're going live on that thing next month with our product managers. For internally within the city to get the updates. Once I know I'm confident that's good, then we can go ahead and flip the switch and turn our system on so that it'll be outwardly facing. I don't want to give you a specific date because I haven't gotten it from Jasmine in terms of, but you know, it will be, I would venture to say probably the next 3 to 6 months that should be outwardly facing so that you can look at it, you can click on that thing and the public can click on it and see it. And I'll shoot you examples of what that looks like from other cities. I wanted to have it before we started this next CIP year, but we just couldn't get there. And it was just too heavy of a lift to get it done in my first 10 months on the job. But because there's a lot of moving pieces to get that to work right, but it will be drastically improved and greater transparency for everyone in the long run.
Yeah. Well, you know, having the technology is what happens a lot of the time, is that the technology becomes available and then the people that are responsible for maintaining it don't maintain it. And I'm just looking to you to make sure that your people maintain it once it's up and running, because it's going to have to be touched every single day.
Right. And I can't agree more. Our project review board, we didn't have those meetings monthly. I do monthly meetings with product managers and the entire city staff. That never happened before. We've done them since I think December 1st. So every month we've had a product review board meeting and we review all the major projects, and every product manager briefs it to not only to myself and to the other product managers and department heads, but to all the city staff. So if a product manager has an issue, something stuck in legal sitting right there in the room, and they can say, this thing's been sitting in legal. That has never occurred before. Councilman Williams will appreciate it. It's a bit like having your QTB or whatever, but every single month we're doing those meetings. That's been the paper version of the electronic version we're going to. But I knew that the electronic version wasn't up to snuff, so we had to start somewhere. And they've gotten good at that. So I agree with you. At the very minimum, the data will be less than 30 days old. So, but if they're living in it and day to day and they're touching it every day, it'll be updated every day. But at a very minimum, it's going to be, because I'm going to be reviewing it every 30 days, regardless.
Well, thank you. That's a nice explanation. Now, Councilman Richardson's eyelids are getting heavy, very heavy. So maybe we ought to move on.
All right, then. Jasmine, are you finished, Colonel Dillap? I guess so. Jasmine, did you have any comments on it?
No, I think he covered everything well. Thanks.
Okay. What about any other administrative staff, any comments from the administration or any other administrative? Any other council members?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to say briefly that I appreciate all of the hard work and creativity and ingenuity of Colonel Dillap, of Jennifer Green, Jasmine Washington, all of you all, Nick Amberger, everybody in our city staff works hard. I am in no way complaining of their work ethic. I think the things that have been said today will be helpful in solidifying an even stronger working relationship, which is what all of the citizens of our city want to have happen. And so I think this has been a great meeting, Mr. Chair, and I look forward to talking with Ms. Washington and the Colonel about the 2021 CIP program.
Okay. Do I get a recommend, and then other council members?
Well, is there a timeline, Mr. Chairman, of when we're going to vote, what we need, to go forward? I was kind of hoping we'd have it done before the budget, so it doesn't get intertwined and derail one or the other, or both. So is there an expected timeline? Jasmine, maybe you got a slide for us?
We're ready. We were ready, last week. We're ready to go. So, 6 of the 7 council members have all seen, approved, and done everything. So, I mean, we're ready now.
Well, John, I think the approval, and Colonel Dillap will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but what we would be approving is the 21 plan. And insofar as the out years are concerned, we're not really trying to firm those up at this point. It's more aspirational out there, but what we would be affirming explicitly would be the 21 plan. Isn't that right, Colonel?
That's right. And the out years is a template on what we think, broadly, what some things will be out there, but it is not, that's not set in stone. That anything in the out years is a guide, because the next year you're going to readopt that specific year, and it'll be fine tuned and specifically briefed for what those projects are going to be. So you're correct.
No one's being asked to commit to 22 and beyond.
Correct.
Right, but I think for mine, there's a lot of missteps in mine that need to be better, but I made that clear in my meeting. So I look forward, hopefully. It's not going to be, I realize it's not in cement. I get that. But there's really just, it's wide open. There's something quite wrong with it. If you're looking strategically. So, and I'm still tweaking slightly, little amounts of money, but I know I'll make it for when it comes out for a vote.
Okay, but you're okay with 21? You're okay with 21?
I'm tweaking. I got little tweaks, little tiny tweaks in the scheme of things. It's minor. I just have to move some money into another line, and it will work. I can make this work. I'm confident that it's a good project.
Okay, so you'll be getting with Jack on that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've already made my statements on the ones when I had my meeting. So yeah, I don't keep things to myself. I'll let them know. It's important.
And other council members? Mr.
Fred,
Richardson,
you're muted.
on.
Fred just needs to unmute. Can somebody unmute Fred?
Maybe he's talking to the cat.
Squeaky.
Fred, your mic is off. Turn your mic on, Fred.
Can somebody do it for him?
Teach Squeaky how to do it.
At least unmuting. As Uncle Henry did that to him.
On,
Very good. Oh, nope,
One more time, Fred.
on,
there.
Oh,
Keep trying. Keep trying. Third time's a charm.
I thought that was the third time.
okay, so let me see where my mute is.
You're
got it.
You're good. Oh, now you're
Whoa.
bad.
You're bad. You're good.
All right, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, I think we need to focus on Councilman Manzi. He is saying that his vision for his district has not been actualized, and I think before we put anything on the council agenda, that need to be worked out. He's made his cry that what he's trying to do for his district.
The CIP has been a great success. I'm not just only speaking on behalf of District 3, but also, really throughout the city of Mobile. And I want to open up this meeting, starting with the committee members and Councilman John Williams, and just give us the pros and cons of what you have experienced the past several years of this CIP and its ordinance and everything. And then we'll work out stuff too. At that time, hopefully, Councilman Richardson be on board, then to our president, and then following the number of districts after that. Councilman Williams.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. My thought is that this has been a bigger success than most cities would ever dream of. We have made the adjustments when we've needed to address citywide buildings and facilities. I think we've tweaked it every time it was needed, and I
Has not been put into the program.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. President.
I just want to say, I appreciate that, Councilman Richardson. And I'm going to be working diligently with the Colonel and with Ms. Washington to make certain, I assure you, the vision is going to be actualized when it hits the council agenda. I appreciate your support.
All right, okay.
All right. Do I get a recommendation from the committee?
I'll say that we vote on this thing within 2 weeks.
Mr. Richardson?
I don't disagree.
Okay.
And that will give Rayla enough time to get us that information too, about what the penny's bringing in and where it's gone. That'd be good.
2 weeks from tomorrow. On the
All right.
agenda.
Sounds
All
good.
right. Colonel,
All
I
right.
recommend put it on there before that so it can be held over one time.
That's the public, I'm absolutely fine with that, but that's also the day we have the public hearing. No, is that right? No. It's the week after we have the public hearing. Okay, thanks.
All right. Do I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'd make
So
that motion.
moved.
Second.
In a discussion? I do have one. It's good to see everybody without the mask on today. And I think this has been a successful first committee Zoom meeting. Many more to come. Okay.
Well, very successful. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. And this meeting is adjourned. See y'all
Thank
tomorrow.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, yeah.